Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast. Today, we're talking about James Gunn's new plan for the DCCU, a certain king is back to sell you propane and propane accessories, and Star Wars Visions is going global. All this and everything else that happened this week in Geek.
Love ya. Get home safe, guys. Peace.
Hey, it's Nate, and if you're joining us for the first time, we are Geekcentric, a podcast celebrating the world of movies, TV shows, toys, collectibles, gaming, and all things Geekcentric. Joining me for This Week in Geek, we have the jacket-wearing, jousting javelin man, Justin the Juicy Propane Lighter Lawrence. How you doing?
Wow, that's a badass wrestling name too. Juicy Propane.
Propane
I like
lighter?
it. Yeah, I like it. I'm doing well. How are you?
Are you a propane man or a butane man? What do you go with?
I really don't know.
Neither do I. I just looked up these words.
I probably would go with propane.
Okay.
I don't know what's better for the environment. Is really the question.
Probably neither.
Probably.
Yeah. If you know, listen, if you're like one of the main characters of something we're going to be talking about later, please write in and let us know your thoughts on butane or propane. But Justin, before we get to, sort of the main news, we did have some breaking news that I sent you that we all got very sad about. And this comes from Dominic Mossbergen of the Wall Street Journal, who writes, dangerous fungal infections are on the rise, and a growing body of research suggests warmer temperatures might be a culprit. The human body's average temperature of 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit has long been too hot for most fungi to thrive, infectious disease specialists say. But as temperatures have risen globally, some fungi might be adapting to endure more heat stress, including conditions within the human body, research suggests. Climate change might also be creating conditions for some disease-causing fungi to expand their geographical range, research shows. Justin, the research is showing us that The Last of Us is coming true. Is this real? This is Wall Street Journal, or is this like just some really great marketing for HBO?
Yeah, I think this is obviously real. We've talked about it on our Watch Club. There's a lot of science that's going into justifying, how the cordyceps spread and the impact it has. But that said, obviously, this article is very timely. A lot of other outlets like IGN, Comic Book Movie, they posted this story, and we're just like, whoa, this is crazy. And I think it just goes to show it's another layer to how the series The Last of Us is really tapping into what's going on in the real world. It is dealing with an exaggerated situation of a pandemic that has broken the world, which we've just lived through. And now we have this article that kind of supports the science behind how this thing spreads. So I don't know. It's just another one of those things that reminds us that we're not that far off.
No, dude. And that's the scary part. It's like, I think when we think of, stories from the past predicting the future, we think of usually it's fun technology related things, right? You think back to the Jetsons, right? Or Star Trek, and you're like, oh yeah, they thought we would have all this stuff, and like some of it we do have. This is not one of those things that I don't think anyone played The Last of Us and was like, oh, I can't wait for that to come true. Like, it's just, I don't know, man. It's freaky. It's scary. I was reading, I can't remember where I was reading it, but it's not necessarily cordyceps. They were talking about, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation here, but like they're oidioceps or something like that. But it looks so similar. It sounds so similar. It's just one of those things where I'm just like, was this a story that maybe the Wall Street Journal they've known about for a while or has been floating around for a while, and like, okay, this is the time to fire this headline out? Because the story itself, like from Dominique, unless I just didn't get the whole story because I'm not subscribed to the Wall Street Journal, but like it's pretty short. You know what I mean? So it's like,
it is.
Again, it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, I'm going to need more information here, Dominique, please.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. The article was short, and I was wondering the same thing. Do I need to subscribe to the Wall Street journal to actually get the full article. But no, I think you might be right. I think this could have been something that they didn't necessarily run right off the bat, and probably because of The Last of Us, they decided to run it. Who knows? If anyone knows, let us know.
Listen, I think it's hopefully we can we've gone through one pandemic. Maybe we can try to avoid another as we keep going here. So a bit of a downer note, but listen, Justin, between now and the fungi outbreak, hopefully we get to experience some of the things we're going to be talking about. Let's actually get to the news.
It's all about the details.
Alrighty, this first story comes from Rob Salkowitz of Forbes, who writes, DC Universe unveils James Gunn's plan for Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, and more. It didn't take long for James Gunn and Peter Safran, the new co-chairman of CEOs of Warner Bros. Discovery's WBD DC Studios, to show the world that the DC Universe is headed in a different direction. The studio today, and we're recording this a little bit later and putting it out a little bit later, but we have to talk about this, announced an ambitious slate of 10 new films, TV, and animation projects under the pair's creative direction, centered on the theme of gods and monsters. The Keystone Project is Gunn's big reboot of Superman, titled Superman Legacy, which is headed for the screen on July 11th, 2025. The film will explore the familiar theme in the Superman canon, the balance between Kal-El's alien origins and human upbringing. Superman Legacy, this is a quote from I believe, Gunn himself. Superman Legacy is the true foundation of our creative vision for the DC Universe. Not only is Superman an iconic part of DC lore, he is also a favorite character for comic book readers, viewers of earlier movies, and fans around the world. I can't wait to introduce our version of Superman, who audiences will be able to follow and get to know across films, movies, animation, and gaming. Moving to a so that's the end of the quote. Moving to a soup-centric model is a big but natural step for DC after relying on Batman as the main tentpole since the late 1980s. But fans of The Dark Knight need not despair. The Batman Part 2, following 2022's Gothic version starring Robert Pattinson, will follow in September 2025. The upcoming slate of new films reaches deeper into the DC catalog, bringing forward properties like The Authority, Booster Gold, and Creature Commandos, alongside known or previously established characters like Supergirl, Green Lantern, Swamp Thing, and the Suicide Squad's Amanda Waller. The latter, with Viola Davis, we're told, is reprising the role as the no-nonsense director of the secret organization Argus from the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, and Black Adam. And she appears to have a prominent role in the relaunched film universe. Quote, "As we craft the plan for DC Studios, we are thrilled to share with fans the first 10 stories they can expect from the unified DC universe, featuring some of our most well-known characters, as well as the next generation of marquee characters," said Safran. Chapter 1 tells cohesive stories that highlight love, compassion, and the innate goodness of the human spirit, all designed to minimize audience confusion and maximize audience engagement across platforms. So, Justin, let's talk about this. I want to go through the list of projects that were announced. If you want, maybe we'll talk about them one at a time. So let's start with the films. Superman Legacy, I think the biggest one that is going to kind of really be, I think, the thing that I think everyone is really waiting to see is how do they move forward with Superman. This is going to be written by Gunn, and the movie is coming out, well, supposed to be coming out, and all of these I'm thinking we're going to put a little asterisk of supposed to be happening on July 11th, 2025 is what I have here.
Yeah, there's no dates attached to everything else, though. That's the only movie,
Sure.
That's the only one that has a date attached to it other than the Batman sequel from Reeves, which will also be in 2025. So I think the studio's prerogative is to move forward with a Superman story, because that is a character that they are seriously not capitalizing on. They have kind of left to the wind, and it's clear people want a Superman movie and something new, something fresh, something that is outside of the Snyderverse, if you will. But some people also really do want that Snyderverse. That's for sure. Already people hashtagging fire gun. It's so stupid.
It is stupid. I think. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Cavill was a great Superman, is a great Superman. If you're listening to this and you are a hardcore DC fan, grew up with the comic books and all that stuff, I am not that. And so take this with a big grain of salt. But I'm sorry, take the win here. Take the win. There's so many people online, as the internet does, complaining about this news. And you've got this, I would say really phenomenal filmmaker, James Gunn, who's made some great movies in a lot of movies that you probably would enjoy as a DC fan, and coming over to the Marvel side, he's great. He's fantastic. He's got a vision. He's got an idea. He's got sort of a plan, whereas it just never felt like we ever had a plan before, other than the ideas of let's just do what Marvel did. Right? So take the win here. Don't complain. 2025 is at the earliest that we're going to be seeing some of these projects.
Yeah, well, they have said, they've gone on the record of saying these 10, it'll always be 2 movies and 2 shows a year, right? So, I think 2025 is obviously the earliest, the first thing that we're going to see from this list. We could see some of the animated series show up before. But again, kicking things off with Superman in 2025, which is 2 years away, 2.5, I guess, because they give a specific date, that's fine. Like, let's just get this thing going, and more information is going to come out. And it's great that Superman's part of Chapter 1. Especially when it's titled Gods and Monsters, like
Phase 1, if they want to go with it. Yeah.
Well, but they didn't go with it. They call it Chapter 1.
They do call it Chapter 1.
Reason.
Okay.
Yeah. He calls it Chapter 1. He called it Chapter 1 in his video, Gods and Monsters.
Right. Okay.
Right? So it's like the reality is that they're using this chapter approach as a way to structure how they're going to look at the larger story in the DC studio. And I think it's really smart for them to kick things off with Superman. Like, they're not going the linear way. They're not doing each hero story leading to the Avengers. They're telling different stories. And a well-deserved and much-needed story that does focus on a younger Superman, which has me really excited. The comic apparently is really, really good. I'm trying to see if I can get a hold of it. It's funny, all of his inspiration that he posted for the comic, they're all top 3 bestsellers right now on Amazon. And
wow.
You can go to a comic book store and you can get
Could we go digital? Could we find them digitally?
Maybe. You probably could find them on their DC comic app. Who knows? But like, I am interested in reading the source material, because the one thing, like you were saying about James Gunn, that's so accurate and true, that he is a fan of DC just as much as he is of Marvel, but he's really a fan of DC as well, and I think that's key. Like that's the season, that's the special part to Kevin Feige. He's a fan of Marvel Comics,
right,
which is why he's able to dig through the treasure trove of unknown stories and comic issues that tell really unique stories and bring them to the cinematic world, which is why I think that the selection that James Gunn and Peter Safran have gone with for this first chapter makes sense. It's a little bit of everything. It's not the typical, it's not just your tentpole characters. It's a little bit of everything to build out this DC world.
Well, I think one of the things that kind of caught me off guard a little bit, and I was a little bit worried about, is just that initial description of balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing, and you kind of think, well, we've already seen that quite a bit. Even for people that haven't really read the comics but have watched the movies, have already seen that quite a bit. But again, knowing Gunn, it's going to be different. It's going to be different enough, that still gives you that origin story, but different enough that it's not going to feel like, oh, here we go again, just the same story over and over again.
Well, you could argue that that Man of Steel has much of the same themes that you're talking about, and how that inevitably affects him to kill Zod. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen Man of Steel. But I agree with you. I think what's really going to make this interesting is who's going to direct it, even if it is him. Who's going to star in it? I think that's the other thing. And then, tonality is also going to be hugely important to this movie. We know Gunn to have a very fun, eccentric, vibrant vibe. I don't know if that's really going to land with Superman, but again, he might not be directing this. He's just writing it. So it's really up to whoever's directing it to give it the tone that it needs.
Right. And I remember there was the Ta-Nehisi Coates, Black Superman movie that they were also doing. Do we know
apparently
if
that's still
still going?
Like, Yeah, when we covered the announcement that Gunn and Safran were taking over, apparently, I remember us reading that was still in development. Whether it gets through, we'll see, right? If things get stalled. But at the time of when we were reporting it, it seemed like that movie was going to make its way through. But, we are going to be having two versions of Batman, with Matt Reeves' version, continuing, and a new story. So I'm wondering if we're going to have a bit of a multiversal situation.
Right. Well, I mean, and that brings us to the Batman 2, officially titled The Batman Part 2, September 25th, which I think Gunn said very specifically, it's an Elseworlds DC. This is and I love that. I love the idea that he's planning on ostensibly, and actually a lot of people are trying to do the Marvel approach. I actually think in this instance he's doing the Star Wars approach, right? Where with Star Wars we get things like Visions, which is not part of the canon, right? And we're going to be talking a little bit about that coming up, but here, we're going to be getting stories from other filmmakers, from other studios. Joker Folie à Deux is going to be another one of those sort of not necessarily within this same Gunniverse, or the DCU, the traditional DCU, or DCCU. And so I think that's awesome. I think that's fantastic. But I also love the idea that they are going the Star Wars approach of saying every book, every game, every story, and all the same actors. And that's another sort of interesting thing regarding the animation and the gaming side is, are all of the actors that he's choosing, are all of them going to be able to pull off the voice acting, the performance capture, right? Are all of them going to be able to do that? And how does that work scheduling wise? Like, that's one of those things where I was both excited and worried about it at the same time, but
for sure. I think there's going to be some really big contract agreements to get some of these actors, right? Maybe for some of those actors that are doing gaming appearances and stuff like that, it's a couple voice lines here and there, maybe a scene that they need to film, nothing huge, right? There's like,
are you
let's
sure?
say I'm just saying, for instance, of like I don't think they're going to do a Superman game, but I think that they'll have Superman appear in a game. So you get the guy who plays Superman to do the voice acting and to do the appearance of Superman in the game, so that it connects to the bigger universe. That's how I saw it.
Really?
Right? Like I see that, like, if they introduce, let's say, a character strictly through the game that inevitably finds itself in animated or in live action, then yes, they will get the voice actor or performance capture of that person or whatever to play that character. But I don't know if that's always the case, right? Like, look at like Ashley Eckstein versus Rosario Dawson, right? Like, Ashley Eckstein's great as Ahsoka in the animated series. She's fantastic. I love her. She is Ahsoka, right? But now we have a new iteration of Ahsoka in the live action that will be played by Rosario Dawson and is just as interesting. And I'm very intrigued to see what her performance is going to be like, inspired from Ashley Eckstein. So I don't know if it's always.
That's what he said, though, isn't it? That's what he said. He said same
he
people.
He said the main thing is that the movies and the show and the games will all be tied together with the characters from the cinematic world, from the animated world, and from the video game world, all tying together and being the same representation, whether that be the actors or voice performances. But more importantly, the stories are all going to tie together. Right. So if you play a Suicide Squad game from this new, universe, maybe it ties into the movie Suicide Squad, and it ties into, a bigger story that's going on. Right. I enjoy that. I like that idea, that approach with how they look at all of their properties holistically, contributing to the one canon.
I guess it's just one of those things where you see sort of you see both sides of it, right? You see the voice acting side, where you've got voice actors that are being for the Hollywood big blockbuster movies or shows are being replaced, and then you've got sort of success stories like Merle Dandridge with The Last of Us, right? Where she plays Marlene in both the game and in the show. And so it's one of those situations where, like, I would be so much more okay if we started to see that. But again, it's going to be tricky because you're going to have to balance the idea of, can this person be a good voice actor and a great actor? And I will say usually that's the case, but are they always going to look the part? Are they always going to, you know what I mean? Like, that's one of the best parts about voice acting, is that you could be a completely different person playing a completely different character. So again, we'll have to wait and see. Again, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here. Let's keep going with...
No, I get you. I totally agree with you. I think it would be nice if they can make it work.
Yeah.
Right? And it sounds like that's their hopes. I'm very excited for is just the connectivity through animation, from movies to TV shows and gaming. It's just, it's smart.
Yeah. Well, let's keep going here. The Authority. Wildstorm characters will join the DCU as members of the Authority take matters into their own hands to do what they believe is right. I'm not familiar with the Authority or Wildstorm characters. Is this just to clarify, is this a separate comic book world that is being brought in here?
Well, I don't know anything about the Authority. This is all new to me. But just looking at some of the stills from some of the comic books and what was posted, kind of reminds me a bit of something like The Watchmen, but with a little bit more of maybe the Boys style.
Yes.
In that, it's more, it might be a little bit more R-rated.
More of a mature
tonality.
take, yeah.
Yeah, but again, I'm like you. I don't know much about this, but that's what I love about it. Like he's right off the bat, like he's bringing you. Yeah, we're gonna get another Superman. We're gonna get another Batman movie.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, we're also gonna introduce you to some new characters, and the Authority seems like very fitting to the types of stories that Gunn would be interested in, given he's done Guardians.
Well, I was going to say, prior to 2014, how many people loved the Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Like, think about that, right? And so from this standpoint, like, but I think the big thing is like, again, all this stuff is we hope it happens. I hope it happens. The Brave and the Bold, the DCU will introduce its Batman and Robin in this unusual father-son story inspired by Grant Morrison's comic series. So father-son story for
Damian
Batman.
Wayne.
Damian
I can't
Wayne.
believe they're doing it. Yeah, they're literally like, well, it's funny because I've always said that Robin has always been treated as a bit of a joke character. You go back to the 60s, he was the kid, that was the sidekick who had like the funny catchphrases. And even when he made his way into live action and we found him in, the Joel Schumacher movies, he was a bit of a jokester. There was a little bit more of a serious tone to him, but I know in the Snyderverse there was a story about the Joker killing that universe's Robin and that affecting Bruce Wayne, played by Ben Affleck. So like they haven't really done a good job at telling a Robin story. So I really like this idea of telling a different story, making Robin based off of Damian Wayne, Bruce Wayne's son, which is interesting because I think there's going to be some family drama.
For sure. And I think, again, I keep in mind, for anyone who's listening, like, I am not a DC geek at all. In terms of some of the criticisms that I've been reading, people saying that this is not the right place to start Batman at this point, as if this is the start of Batman. But again, it's just one of those things where, like, I think Darcy, one of our co-hosts, talks about it the best when he talks about how he loves the liberties that Marvel is taking in terms of the change-ups to the stories from the Marvel Comics universe to the MCU. And I think that needs to be something that all of us need to be on board with as we move forward. All of us need to be on board with the fact that you might be getting this story that is heavily inspired from the story of the Brave and the Bold, but there could be parts that are massively different about it. And you need to be on board. You need to be okay with it, because you're still going to get, hopefully, if they're doing their job right, which I think James Gunn will, the essence of that story, but in a new way. And to me, that's more exciting. We talk about it in our Last of Us Watch Club every single Sunday. You can catch our Last of Us Watch Club where we break down The Last of Us. But we talk about it every single week of adaptation, And that's what I think we need to be a little more comfortable with moving forward. This sounds really exciting. And the idea, you're right, Justin, the idea of like a family drama situation with Batman is something that I've never seen on screen. And I'm totally down.
And this brings back Talia al Ghul, Ra's al Ghul, because I think Wayne has a child with her, and that is who Damian's mom is. So spoiler alert for that. But I think again, like to the point that you're saying, yeah, adaptation. We have to remember that adaptation is not directly copied from the source material. There's people that choose to go that route with adaptation.
Yep.
But most of the time when we're translating from book or comic book to a, live action medium, there are liberties. There are things that are addressed to make things move a little bit faster. And sometimes we as fans can agree or disagree. But that said, we should know that it's never going to be exactly the same. It's not going to be a carbon copy. And with that, so many people think that, like you said, this isn't the way that you introduce your DCU Batman. Why would you want to do that? Well, what's to say any of the other ways worked?
Correct.
Right? What's to say that any of the other ways of how they've taken this approach has worked? So you want to look at Marvel and say, oh, well, like Marvel did it right with their phase 1. They introduced all the big hitters, the heavy hitters and whatnot. And it's like, well, that worked for them 15 years ago when all of this was just an idea. There was an idea, right? Like Nick Fury says. So for Gunn to come in here and say, let's just mix it up. You know what I mean? Let's give them, a Superman. Let's give them that sequel to Batman. Let's tell them a new story of Batman. Yeah. Let's also give them a Green Lantern, because everybody has been wanting more lanterns.
And that's the other aspect to it, is that James Gunn didn't come out and say, we are the only ones making a Batman movie. No. You're going to get other Batman stories. You're going to get more Batman. I'm honestly thinking you'll get another Batman story even outside of the DCU and outside of, Batman.
We'll get another Superman story too.
Absolutely,
like
right? With J.J. Abrams working on it. And like, it's just one of those things where, cool your jets. Enjoy the ride. Yeah. Let's talk about Supergirl. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. The science fiction adventure will be based on Tom King's amazing award-winning recent comic series. Presents Supergirl viewers something they are not used to seeing. And I think James Gunn has come out and talked about the idea that like this is Supergirl seeing her world breaking and crumbling around her, which sounds super dark. I'm intrigued. I literally know nothing of Supergirl, so I'm very intrigued to see what this turns out to be. She's the cousin of.
She's the cousin of Superman, or Kal-El, and that's their familial relationship.
Okay.
I don't know if they've ever explained how she got off the planet, but I like that while this first chapter is giving us a Superman story, it's also giving us a Supergirl story that, as you said, it seems to be rooted in a real dark, sort of traumatic event that I think obviously is going to be character defining for her as a hero, and maybe plays into the larger story, the big thing that they're trying to tie to. I've heard nothing but great things. This is actually a comic that I did hear about that I just never have read, because like you said, like I'm not really a DC fan. Granted, I've fallen out of comics altogether, right? I sometimes read them digitally when there piques my interest, but I'm not necessarily on top of it like someone like our resident comic geek Darcy.
Sure.
He's very much more into it.
Well, and I also wanted to just quickly mention the idea that like, what if it doesn't mean that you're not going to get new comic book stories as well, but I do love the idea that there's going to be maybe a little stamp, right? I think in Gunn's initial mentioner was Safran, or one of the two of them said, we want to make it streamlined, we want to make it easy for viewers and fans to follow. And I think how sick would it be if there was like, sure, there's the comic book runs that are going to keep happening, but then there's also these comic book runs that are going to have a specific label on them that are going to say this is canon to the movies, to the games that you are enjoying from the DCU at large. Like, I think that would be really, really cool. Swamp Thing. The film investigates dark origins of Swamp Thing. And Justin, who did you say they were looking at potentially for?
James Mangold.
James Mangold.
He retweeted a photo of Swamp Thing from one of the retro comics, and James Gunn retweeted it. And I think actually Big Screen Lakes was also just kind of hinting at the fact that, James Mangold wants to work with James Gunn at DC. I think that's been known. Like once it was announced that James Gunn was working with Peter Safran to head up DC Studios, I think James Mangold had made mention that he wanted to work with James Gunn, which is great. Oh man, I would love to see him do a Swamp Thing. And we've already had Man-Thing in the MCU. Yeah. So now we're going to get Swamp Thing, which is on a different level. There was always meant to be a movie made from Guillermo del Toro. I'd love to see if they resurrect his script or his approach, and maybe he serves as a producer to a movie that James Mangold directs. That would be fucking wild.
That would be sick.
Let me just tell you.
Yeah.
But yeah, like this is interesting. This is definitely the monsters of Monsters and Gods, but I think that might also be a little subtext for maybe some other stories that could also involve monsters.
Interesting. Okay. On to TV here. All of these projects slated for HBO Max. And this one I'm actually really stoked for, dude. Creature Commandos. Yes. And I know nothing about Creature Commandos, but a 7-episode animated show in which Amanda Waller creates a black ops team out of monstrous prisoners. Gunn wrote all the episodes of the first season. Justin, Creature Commandos, what's your read on this?
Well, I just want to take a second here and just clap one out. Applaud James Gunn. I just wrote 7 episodes while I'm writing a Superman movie and building a cinematic universe. Yeah. My God, I am very excited for this. Again, this seems right up James Gunn's alley with a sort of ragtag group. He did it well with Suicide Squad. This feels like it'll be very much like a spin-off for him and his approach and how he can integrate animation. And it'll be interesting to see what the rating will be for this series, because I could see them going very much a Invincible route. Like even the still that they showed reminded me of like characters you'd see in Invincible, the Amazon Prime show. So yeah, I think it looks wild, looks cool.
It does look really cool. Like they're all sort of like monster type. Like there's a werewolf. I think there's like a Frankenstein looking guy. Right. And I think the other aspect to it too is it reminded me a little bit of sort of the Doom Patrol and sort of how they could, right, how that kind of could really work. And this could even, I think, translate into a live action HBO series, right? And that's sort of the other way that they can go with this sort of stuff. So I'm very intrigued.
I think the fact that we have Waller coming up, which I'm sure you're going to talk about as well. But, with Amanda Waller being integral to this animated series, I don't think it's far-fetched to say that we would see some of these characters
show up in the Waller series.
Show up in the Waller series, rather than it suddenly just translate to a live action, because he might just keep them in animated and use them as cameo characters throughout other shows. That's what's interesting, even from a video game perspective. You played the game as this character, but maybe in the live action world or even the animated, it's just a cameo appearance of that character, right?
Waller, starring Viola Davis, features Team Peacemaker and will be written by Crystal Henry, who did Watchmen, and Jeremy Carver from Supernatural, which is 2 great, phenomenal gets there. And again, a lot of fun. And I think the aspect of, I think even just Jeremy Carver working on Supernatural, there's your monstrous get right there, right? Bring in some of those monsters into the Waller series. I'm sure vibes, he could totally handle it. And then, Crystal Henry for Watchmen, like, what a banger show. So, yeah, I think that's a fantastic get as well. Like, that show is phenomenal. And yeah, man, I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see sort of what comes of that. And Viola Davis, are you kidding me?
And the fact that they've been able to keep Viola Davis, this acting powerhouse who stayed consistent from the original Suicide Squad from David Ayer. She has been a constant through this DC cinematic universe. So I'm so glad that she's sticking with it, and I'm glad that James Gunn is keeping her on board as this character.
Booster Gold. Booster Gold uses basic technology from the future to pretend to be a superhero in present day. I love that concept. I've not known of Booster Gold, but all I've heard is that he's kind of a bit of a douchey character. And but it's funny, Justin, because a lot of people are saying Chris Pratt online. But Koi Gendreau, who's frequents New Rock Stars, I was seeing him online saying Billy Magnuson, which would be perfect from what I'm seeing, like from the imagery of Booster Gold, but even the way he's described as sort of this like sort of douchey, like fake. It's perfect. It's perfect. Like no offense to Billy Magnuson, but he plays those kind of characters really well.
For sure, and he can be like over the top confident and cocky and whatnot. And I don't think Chris Pratt is the perfect choice for this character. I think the internet just kind of made their own assumptions given the fact that James Gunn said, oh, Chris Pratt and I will be working together again after their time together on Guardians of the Galaxy in the DC studios. So everyone was kind of losing it. And I see how people could make the connection between Booster Gold and Pratt playing that character. But you know what? If Chris Pratt's going to play a character in James Gunn's DC studios, it's going to be different. It could be something along the same lines as how, we were introduced to Nathan Fillion in Guardians 1 as someone who was wearing prosthetics and was much more of a performance acting character with a voice. I could see Chris Pratt lending his voice to an animated character or being some sort of a sideline character rather than front facing. It would be very different.
Okay, that would be fun. Like go really different with it.
For sure. Yeah.
I think also my go if he wants to go a little like even just slightly younger, I would go with like a Doc Ray Montgomery, right? Stranger Things, like Billy from Stranger Things, I think would be a really interesting get there. But now we're just starting to name blonde-haired actors. Let's keep going here because this one sounds awesome. Lanterns, this enormous TV event is how it's being described, series follows intergalactic cops Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan as they uncover a dark mystery. Dude, on HBO, dark mystery show, but like Green Lanterns?
With space?
Come on!
And Green Lanterns? And like the pitch is like, this is a true detective. Like, I don't, like, sometimes I forget if that is a term or if it's a direct reference to the show.
Right.
Which I fucking love.
Yeah.
Like, I've watched season 1 3 times through. And it's so hard to get through sometimes. But the performances and the way it tells the story of the crime through time.
Yeah.
Over the course of time, the idea that like it's not a case that's just cut and dry. Here's the solve. It's they get so immersed in it, and then years later they solve it. And that's kind of the mentality with all three seasons is that cases go cold and they go long, and detectives are still investigating them years and years later. And I think that's going to be kind of the case here because especially with Hal and John's their difference in terms of time and approach, they could be from different points of time. Mm-hmm. Right. And investigating the same sort of case and their stories intertwined. So yeah. And the fact that they've, like you said, they use the words enormous and that it's incredibly integral to the larger story that they're telling in this DCU. It's pretty wild. So, I think it sounds like it's going to be one of the influential series that will help kick things off for the DCU.
I hope so.
In a direction of they're going big.
I'm excited. I'm stoked for that. That sounds awesome.
Sounds great. That one, that's the one I'm excited for.
I think so.
For sure.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm in the same boat there. Paradise Lost, set in Themyscira, home of the Amazons and birthplace of Wonder Woman. This drama focuses on the genesis and political intrigue of an island of all women, Amazon women. So that's intriguing. That's giving me Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon vibes, right? Like, but with Amazonians.
That's exactly
what
I thought when I read it too. It's and the fact that again with Lanterns they reference True Detective.
Sure.
I think that might be their point of reference for their go-to for inspiration of like how can we relate this back to specific series or even give it a mood and a thought process that feels different from anything else that kind of removes the superhero quality, right? So 100%. This show sounds like it's going to be a political thriller with the Game of Thrones, seeking a power. I love it. I think it's such a cool idea because that was probably the most interesting parts of Themyscira is the fact that the politics of how things would work, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? What does that look like in a society that is of all women? It could be really interesting. Women warriors too, man. Like, geez, you're going to get some wicked fight sequences in this show.
It's going to be fantastic.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah. But the question is, are they going to talk about Wonder Woman. Does this take place before her time, right? There's still talks that Gal Gadot could be playing the character, right? They might just be taking a beat for a second before they decide to introduce her, or how they introduce her, or, you know, give her a bit of a reboot, if you will.
Or do they, you know, we're obviously going to have main characters in this show. So do they get fans behind ostensibly a new Wonder Woman, right? That's not played by Gal Gadot, right? So it'll be interesting to sort of see how that all works out. I think the biggest thing that for me that this whole, you know, release, this video that they put out really did. I think this was an incredible saving swing for The Flash. James Gunn coming out and saying that The Flash he's saying it's a phenomenal movie that resets the DCU. That him just literally saying the line, "This is the movie that resets everything," and then sets the basically gives you the starting point of the new. That is enough to bring audiences to a movie that probably never would have before. You know, I think for myself, it's one of those things where, again, we're not going to get into everything that's going on with Ezra Miller and what they're going through, but the idea that movie is just so far gone at this point that it is the kickoff, the reset point, that to me is intriguing enough to at least just see how they do that. And that to me this was incredible marketing for that movie from that one line alone.
Yeah, it gets the seal of approval that, you know, it's worth checking out, and, you know, it is going to play a part in resetting. You know, I'd still would drop Aquaman, honestly. I just don't know if it's really going to matter. You know, it's clear Jason Momoa might be excited about what's next for the character, or for playing someone else. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Maybe this is the end of that. But yeah, I'm interested in seeing how this next year for DC really plays in. You know, Shazam is obviously up next.
Got the new Shazam trailer just dropped recently as well. Yeah. Which again, it just felt more or less the same of what we know from the DC. But I'm at least more intrigued by, you know, Zachary Levi's character and the kids and the family, the Shazam fam, if you will. It's like you can watch the trailer and you can just be like, damn, like I already know how this movie's going to play out, and like that is something beyond just telling good stories that Warner needs to get in hand, is how you market these movies to at least create the intrigue and have the excitement without giving away everything. And also how how they're talking about these new projects. How are they talking about these new projects and then still getting people excited about the stuff that might not matter? We don't know. Right?
We don't know. And we don't know how it's all going to play out. So, you know, while I'm not necessarily overly excited for everything that's coming out this year for DC, I am very excited for what Gunn has presented here and the direction that he's taking it, and how it doesn't feel like it needs to be linear in any way. It's about just introducing the right stories in this first chapter to help expand and you know, tell more in later chapters. Maybe we get a reboot of Aquaman in chapter 2. You know, maybe we get a reboot of Wonder Woman in that story as well. So, you know, again, as he points out, no one can follow these movies or these stories, and it's like we need to make this more manageable, and has to make sense for audiences so that they can actually appreciate it like they appreciate Marvel. So, you know, again, I always say, in Gunn we trust.
In Gunn we trust. Justin, you mentioned possible reboot of Aquaman. Aquaman, of course, is a king. But there's another king getting a reboot. And
we're moving to the next news story?
To the next news story, finally. King of the Hill revival, officially a go at Hulu. This comes from Leslie Goldberg at The Hollywood Reporter, who writes, following years of rumors and speculation, King of the Hill is officially getting the reboot treatment at Hulu. The Disney-backed streamer has handed out a straight-to-series order for a revival of the former Fox animated series from 20th Television Animation. It feels weird not to say 20th Century Studios, but creators Mike Judge and Greg Daniels are set to return and executive produce alongside showrunner Saladin Patterson, who did ABC's The Wonder Years, and original voice cast members Kathy Najimy, Stephen Root, Pamela Adlon, Johnny Hardwick, and Lauren Tom. The reboot, which has been rumored for years, has been in the works since Judge and Daniels reunited with the King of the Hill cast in 2017 at Sketchfest in San Francisco for the 20th anniversary of the beloved comedy. Quote, "We are all so excited to welcome back Hank, Peggy, and Bobby, and to see what they have to say about the world we live in and continue the conversations we began years ago," said Craig Erwich, president of ABC Entertainment, Hulu, and Disney-branded television streaming originals. Quote, "This show has all the perfect ingredients to meet the moments in animation, to meet this moment in animation at Hulu. And we're so thankful to be having those conversations alongside this talented group." King of the Hill ran for 13 seasons on Fox, starting in 1997. Justin, what are your thoughts on a King of the Hill reboot? And did you catch what Craig sort of omitted in that quote there? Just he said Hank, Peggy, and Bobby, but I didn't hear anything about Luann. Obviously,
Luann was played by Brittany
Murphy.
So I don't. So they might address it, and they might actually pay respect to the character in a way that honors it. But at the same time, they might not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That we'll have to wait and see. But we know that the story's obviously going to focus on Hank, Peggy, and Bobby, and I welcome it. I think it's. I'm very excited for it. I remember back in '97 when the show aired, and I was just into sort of Beavis and Butthead just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Not really. I didn't really always get it, but I was a huge Simpson fan. And obviously King of the Hill played, if I'm not mistaken, I think after Simpsons.
Yep,
and
usually.
I would watch it.
Yeah,
I would watch it. And I was actually really, really blown away at how funny it was. And years later now, obviously not being a kid, not, understanding a little bit more about society, understanding the sort of stereotypical nature of the stories that they're telling.
Some of the characters,
God,
I think,
country,
were
and just
yeah.
I
I don't know if we'll see them in the reboot. Is what I'm trying to say.
For sure, but they also might they could bring back some of these characters in a way to poke fun at the themselves,
Mm-hmm.
as well as sort of how the times they have changed, right?
But I'm even just thinking about his neighbor, right? The neighbors. There's been a push in animation, and I think obviously we're talking about 1997 here. There's been a big push in animation.
Oh yeah, his Asian neighbor
of casting, voice actors who are actually of that specific ethnicity for these roles. So when it comes to bringing back, it's not going to be a problem to bring back Kathy and Jimmy, but obviously I'm wondering, and I would applaud them if they were to potentially recast a lot of some of these additional characters who weren't necessarily played by.
Yeah, Toby Huss is a well-known actor now, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree. I think that they're going to recast, if anything. You can't have Toby Huss coming back and playing that character. That he has become quite the actor in the years, and I don't think he needs that on his name. And there might be a bit of regret there, anyways.
Yeah.
With that, you could still have Toby Huss come back as someone else.
Sure.
But I don't think you can do that, especially given the fact that Hank Azarian is no longer doing Apu.
Correct.
Apu just doesn't exist anymore.
And I think
Simpsons.
The world has thankfully moved on from doing that, because I think don't get me wrong, I do think it's important to still I think the stories that King of the Hill can tell today and about today's society are really interesting. But I do really believe that it's important for them to make some adjustments, to make some changes for 2023, and hopefully we will see that happen. But another part of animation that I'm really excited for that is going through some changes, Justin, and I'm very stoked about the changes, is Star Wars Visions. Star Wars Visions Volume 2 arrives this May. This comes from Adele Anchor's Range over at IGN, who writes, Disney and Lucasfilm have announced details for the second volume of the animated anthology series Star Wars Visions, which will premiere on Disney Plus on May 4th, aka Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. Volume 2 will feature 9 animated shorts from 9 different studios across the globe, which with each one offering a new perspective on the storied mythos of Star Wars. The studios behind the shorts are El Giri from Spain, Cartoon Saloon from Ireland, Punk Robot from Chile, Aardman from the UK, Studio Mir from South Korea, Studio La Cache from France, 88 Pictures from India, Triggerfish from South Africa, De Art Stagio, which is a Japanese studio working collaboration with Lucasfilm. So, Justin, they also revealed the titles and directors of each short. Just before I get to that, let me just complete this story here. The first volume of Star Wars Visions comprised of 9 shorts created by some of the most influential Japanese anime studios, with stories detailing what became of the Jedi, a rock opera, and more. But for its second season, the show is looking to go even bigger. In a statement, James Waugh, who is executive producing Volume 2 with Jackie Lopez and Josh Rhimes, reflected on Volume 1 and how it created a framework for celebratory expressions of the franchise that can be expanded with each new installment. With Volume 2, we expanded our canvas to take audiences on a global tour of some of the most talented creators from around the world, he said. Every short is incredible, full of heart, scope, imagination, and the values that make stories distinctly Star Wars, all while opening up bold new ways of seeing what a Star Wars story can be. I'm super stoked about this. Let's look at the list here of the names and each studio that's doing them. We can kind of look at some of the we can reference some of the work that maybe they've done in the past. So the first one that they announced, titled just simply Sith. This is from Studio Algiri, writer-director Rodrigo Blas, Emmy Award-winning director who has spent more than 20 years in animation. Blas joined Blue Sky Studios. They worked on a film you might know, Ice Age, before transitioning into Pixar Animation Studios. There, he worked on projects such as Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, Ratatouille, WALL-E, and the Oscar-nominated short film La Luna. More recently, partnered with Guillermo del Toro to develop the award-winning series Troll Hunters, which I actually really enjoyed before I stopped watching it, and served as creative director for Micros Animation Paris. He created Algiri Studios in Madrid with his partner, Cecile Hoeks, and they also wrote the 2009 award-winning short film Alma. Justin, The Sith. Is this one doing it for you?
Oh yeah, this one does it for me, and especially given the fact of how the first episode of Star Wars Vision Season 1 kind of begins with this sort of dark Sith-driven story. So I think it mirrors really well. I'm just excited for this whole thing.
Yeah.
Though, in all honesty, the whole story just gets me really hyped. Star Wars Visions was a huge success. It was one of my favorite things because, again, the celebratory freedom that these studios had, where they didn't have to be bogged down by the canon.
Yeah.
The idea that they don't need to worry about how their story slots in to the existing canon. It's just great. And, taking this now, as they described, global, and hitting up these more international studios. There's some really great work that's out there, and it has me wondering if there's going to be maybe some stop motion options, maybe like based on some of those studios.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So, Cartoon Saloon, Screecher's Reach is the name of the short, directed by Paul Young, who also worked on the animated features My Father's Dragon from Netflix, Wolfwalkers from Apple TV Plus, and then a few other sort of feature. I know one of the most sort of award-winning ones was The Breadwinner, which was an award-winning short. I think the style here, very much that sort of flat cartoon, sort of almost paper character sort of look, where
two-dimensional,
very two-dimensional.
Yeah, very flat planes. Everything just feels very pastel and painterly, while also just defined with the line work. What's nice though about Cartoon Saloon is like their look is very consistent from movie to movie.
Yeah.
right? Some of the other studios, there's a variety of different stuff that they've done, but at least here it looks like, more or less I could see a Star Wars story told in this world.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? Like that. Yeah. It would look so good.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what we'll do, and I'll try to remind you, Justin, but we'll put the links to these various studios where you can check out their reels, hopefully not while you're driving and listening to this, but you can check out their reels and sort of see some of the references that we're referring to, because this does look gorgeous. I still want to watch My Father's Dragon. I think it's absolutely beautiful. Cartoon Saloon from Ireland, gotta love it. And yeah, Screecher's Reach. I'm going to assume Screecher is a creature. I think Screecher is a creature, and I think Screecher's Reach is going to sort of be a play on words here, and I'm very, very intrigued by that. In the Stars, Gabriel Osorio, Punk Robot. This one looks really interesting. This is, they've kind of got sort of... They've got a ton of different animation styles on their website. From stop motion.
A lot of it is 3D though.
Yeah.
A lot of it looks 3D with stop motion, right? So like they could give us something more CG. There's something in their portfolio called the Magical Night of Gaspar. And then everything else though in and around that looks very stop motion though. And I think that could be really interesting if they could actually bring that level of animation to Star Wars. I would dig it.
I'm really intrigued.
I'm very, very intrigued by that.
And speaking of stop motion, Aardman Studios, I Am Your Mother, Magdalena Osinska. I mean, come on. Wallace and Gromit, Star Wars?
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Well, but like, remember, they've like, if you again another studio, our Aardman studio, like their stuff is ranged in terms of the types of animation. But yeah, like they could use the signature Wallace and Gromit style. They could do claymation, right, which would be really interesting. I think if anything, some of these studios do look like they could give us a fresh animated take on
excited.
Star Wars.
I'm so excited.
It could be really, really cool. So, whether they actually use the Wallace and Gromit style, I don't think they will.
Really?
I think that it'll probably.
I think so many people are expecting them to, so I really hope they do. I hope at the very least it's claymation. You know what I mean? Even if it doesn't look like it doesn't like a Gromit holding a lightsaber. You know what I mean? Like, sure, make it claymation. Studio Mir, Hyun Gun's Park is going to be directing Journey to Darkhead, dude, or Journey to the Darkhead. Dude, okay, just do yourself a favor. Watch the Boondocks. Watch The Legend of Korra. Watch the Voltron series that was done with DreamWorks. Like Guardians of the Galaxy, the animated series, like they have done some really, really beautiful stuff. Another really good one on Netflix is Kipo and the Age of the Wonder Beasts. Like it's one of those things that I keep scrolling through all the different animation sections within Netflix, and there are just so many fantastic studios working on some great animation projects that I think are just getting, unfortunately, buried underneath just the onslaught of other content on Netflix. Check that out. But yeah, the Boondocks, Legend of Korra, like this sort of very sort of anime infused style, I'm stoked for, man. And just the idea of Journey to the Darkhead, like that just sounds awesome. So yeah, just more of that, please. We're almost done here. The Spy Dancer, Julian Chang, Studio La Cachette. I think one of the biggest ones that they've worked on that I know of is Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal, working alongside Genndy Tartakovsky. So, which Genndy Tartakovsky, Star Wars Animation, already has a callback, right, with the original Clone Wars series. Yeah. For those who don't know, there was a Clone Wars series before the Dave Filoni series that Genndy worked on, and it is amazing. Please take the time to jump on Disney Plus, watch it. You can watch it in I think it's under 2 hours or under 2.5 hours. It is fantastic, the entire series, and Primal is really, really great as well. So if that's
Primal's
what we're looking at here, oh my gosh!
Well, but again, we're not going to get. I don't know if we're going to get Genndy obviously involved because he's not credited as
sure, but
director,
Genndy didn't necessarily do the animation here, right? That's what I'm saying.
He designed the look of the characters and stuff like that, and then they animated it. So and that's why I think a studio like like Mendy here, it shows such a diverse range of looks. Nothing is overly specific to them, other than maybe certain sort of elemental qualities to it. Like I could see like some of their other looks really finding a way. Also, just given what we got from Star Wars Vision Season 1, like not everything was like your in your face anime. It was very unique to other styles that were very specific to them. They did Love, Death, and Robots too.
Yeah, dude.
Oh,
they did an episode of Love, Death, and Robots, which was a great episode. It was called Sucker of Souls. It's a great episode. The Bandits of Golak, by Ishan, directed by Ishan Shukla, 88 Pictures. So I looked up some of their stuff. The only thing I can see is there was a show called Rise of the, it was Troll Hunters. Yeah, it's Troll Hunters that they did. I think it's called Troll Hunters, or is it?
Yeah, it's called Troll Hunters.
Yes, they did.
I'm looking at it now.
So they worked on Troll Hunters as well. Like they've done a few things here. Some sort of marketing reel for Tom and Jerry. Again, just any way that we can get more stories from around the world is awesome here.
Well, this is and that's the other part that's really interesting too, is how each of these places that we're traveling to, there's a cultural uniqueness to it, and how are they going to fuse that into the story, right? Is it expected of them to do that, right? Because like this is a studio based out of India, and it seems like they're working on a lot of content all across the world, right? It doesn't necessarily think, there's nothing here that necessarily speaks super, specific to Indian culture, other than the studio being based in India. So, with this director, what's the approach, right? And does this studio now have this freedom to like do a story and animate a story that culturally speaks back to them?
Absolutely.
Right? That's what's cool. It could become like a real like passion project.
Well, I'm interested to see Ow's Song, directed by Nadia Dares and Daniel Clark of Triggerfish, who is also they've also had the opportunity to work on a part of a series that we had heard about a long time ago that was supposed to come out in 2022. That is
Highway Rat?
No, Kizazi Moto Generation Fire, which was the sort of short anthology that looked absolutely incredible. I'm really hoping that it says it's still in production, so I'm hoping we do get that. And that was supposed to be with Disney. But yeah, dude, Triggerfish, their stuff looks absolutely stellar. And it's sort of this, again, more of a CG animated look to it. But kind of this, I don't know, man. It looks really well detailed, really beautiful.
Yeah.
And then this last one here, The Pit, Leandre Thomas and Justin Ridge for D'Art Chachio, which I believe they're partnering with Lucasfilm. But looking at their stuff, again, it is speaking
Tokyo.
to
Very
more
anime.
of that anime style. I think they worked with The Weeknd as well. They did a music video with The Weeknd, which is awesome. And I'm almost wondering if maybe if we're going to get a follow-up or a part 2 to any of the stories that we got in the first Visions, if this is the studio that does it. You know what I mean? Like maybe that's how they sort of have a little bit of... Because I remember when we did our review, we want more of some of these stories.
But I don't need a part 2. I think it was just a testament to how unique each of these stories were in the first season, that they could stand the ground of being their own show, right? Any one of them could have done that, and we would have welcomed it more. But the idea that we are just brought to this one pocket of time, and it's an anthology series, and that nothing really is connected, right? And it's more about the mythos of Star Wars that really does keep everything connected. That to me is like, that is again the celebratory quality of this show, right? Of this series. So with season 2, I hope they don't really revisit anything. I hope they just continue to tell more stories, and just go wild with it. Do something different, because that is what definitely worked for Star Wars Visions, is being different with the canon and not being so rigid. And yeah, I am so I think this will probably be one of the my most anticipated shows for this year, for sure. I'm excited to see what this is going to be.
I think we got Tales of the Jedi late last year, and this is the Star Wars that, Bad Batch is absolutely a lot of fun, and we're talking about it weekly. But you're right. Yeah, I do think this
different.
This is for me, this is the Tales of the Jedi of 2023, or the Star Wars Visions of 2023. And by the way, I'm a little distracted, sorry, because the animated music video for Snow Child that you can find on the Weekend's YouTube page is awesome, and that is done by that same studio. So very excited. I cannot wait for May the 4th. We've got so much great Star Wars content. As I said, the Bad Batch is already underway. Mando Season 3 is going to be coming up next. And then in May, we'll be celebrating with Visions. I'm hoping I get to see one of these shorts at Star Wars Celebration. And if I do, I'll be reporting back for sure.
For sure, you probably will, unless, of course, we're in luck of being a part of any early screening access, which could be the case. And, of course, we want to talk about it because, as we've just outlined here, there are so many studios from around the world with unique voices and unique perspectives, and it'll be interesting to see how Star Wars Vision kind of accumulates all of these perspectives and tell some new stories. I think it's safe to say you'll probably get some episodes,
and we will be definitely, I think, just like we did with the first season of Star Wars Visions, we will be going through and going through a big, nice little spoiler-filled review, maybe a spoiler-free and a spoiler-filled.
Yeah, we'll spoiler-free and filled for sure. We did it last time. We'll do it again.
Very cool. Well, listen, this was a mega episode of news with both the DCU announcements as well as this Star Wars Visions announcement and a little bit about King of the Hill coming back. So we don't have Bobby. We don't have a trailer time this week. And I think another big aspect to that too is the Super Bowl is going to be coming up for next week. Hopefully we get some heavy hitter trailers during the Super Bowl. I'm looking at you, Marvel. I'm hoping we get something. The Marvels, but we will have to wait and see. Justin, as we wrap up this week in Geek here for February, what ya? We haven't done that in a while. What ya?
Oh, God, what ya? Well, I haven't had much time to watch anything else other than the stuff that is related to what we've been covering. And I know we have been watching The Last of Us because we got those episodes early, which is why you need to check out our Watch Club every Sunday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, right after the show airs on HBO Max and Crave here in Canada.
So you can literally watch the episode and then immediately hang out with us.
Yeah, and then listen. And there's a lot of podcasts out there that are doing it. I'm just glad we're part of that conversation. Absolutely. And we get to just offer our own thoughts because you're a super fan of the game. I'm a fan of the game. But I'm really excited for people to hear our thoughts and to hear what other people are going to finally say about some of the stuff that we've seen. But huge thanks to Crave Canada for giving us that early access because really means a lot. And again, it just allows us to be a part of the conversation amongst so many people that are doing it, and that we're extremely grateful
Absolutely, for. Yeah, 100%. Last of Us HBO. I dived back into Last of Us Part 1 on nice. PS5. Been really digging it, enjoying playing through that again. And then I we've got something that we watched. We're not quite ready to talk about just yet. But, Justin, a show that I've already binged the entire first season of is on Disney Plus through Hulu. And it's not quite a superhero show, but it's a superpower show called Extraordinary. Justin,
yes, I've heard about this.
Created by Emma Moran, and it's about a group of 20-somethings who live together in a flat in London, set in a world where at the age of 18, most people inherit a superpower. And the show mainly follows Jen, who's 25 and still hasn't been granted her power. And dude, I'm telling you, the show is hilarious. It doesn't go to the dark places that The Boys goes to, but comedically, it is as funny as The Boys.
It's a British humor, though.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Like it's definitely of that style. Yeah, I've heard great things about the
Justin,
show.
It's gotten incredible reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, and I gotta say, dude, like the powers are so funny. Like, there's a guy who has laser eyes, but they're just laser pointers. They're just laser pointers. There's probably my favorite one is Jen's mom literally has the power to control technology by touching it, and yet she still can't figure out how to use it. Like she still does. Like she can hold an iPad and hack it and do all these things to it. But she's like, how do I? And Jen's like, no, mom, mom, you just have to. No, mom, you just have to go back. No, mom, just. It's so good. You've got to check it out.
That's awesome.
It's a really funny show, and they've been greenlit for a second season even before the first season aired, and it's all out now on Disney Plus. So definitely go check it out. That is it. We hope you enjoyed This Week in Geek. And if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts on this week's news or any of the content we cover here, well, I'm going to hire James Gunn to run the GCCU. That's the Geekcentric Cinematic Universe. So that he can write an actual good movie about Justin, where he lets you know how you can reach us.
Oh, I would read that in a heartbeat. They can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or they can reach out to us on Twitter at GeekcentricYT or on Instagram at wearegeekcentric.
Who are we getting to play Justin? Who's playing Justin?
I don't know.
Come on.
I can't think on the spot like that.
Tom Cruise
Dan
as
Levy.
Justin. Dan Levy. Okay. I like it. Okay, I can see it. That's interesting. For me, you know what? As long as it's not, I'll take a Jack Black if you want to have some fun there. A lot of people want to put me as a James Corden. Listen.
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah?
No, I don't want to. Don't do that.
I would so
as
much
a cat.
sooner take. I could see you dressed as a cat.
Oh my gosh,
doing
Justin.
a musical in a cat outfit. That actually works for you.
Come on. It's not. Jeez. Keep in mind, we have a ton of other episodes covering the latest in movies and TV shows and games, including our recent spoiler-free review for the Apple TV Plus original series, Shrinking. And we have an interview with Luke Tenney, who plays Sean on the show.
Yeah.
And Luke discusses his similarities to his character, as well as what it's like to work with Harrison Ford. We also have our weekly watch club going on for, as we mentioned it, Star Wars The Bad Batch, which you can enjoy every single Wednesday after the episode drops on Disney Plus. And we've got our watch club currently going on for HBO's The Last of Us, which, as Justin mentioned, every Sunday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, right after the episode finishes, you can hear our thoughts. We've got our Ant-Man and the Wasp coverage coming soon. We are very excited to potentially have some opportunities to do some coverage for that movie, which we're very excited for. And yeah, you can hear any interviews that come up either on the podcast service of your choice, or you can check out our lovely faces on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. And later this week, speaking of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, obviously we're leading into the next phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We had a wonderful sort of look back at Marvel Phase 1 to 4, as well as our the heights, our favorite aspects of Marvel Phase 1 to 4, as well as sort of what might have disappointed us, what didn't quite work, and then, of course, what we're looking most forward to in the next chapter of the cinematic universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So definitely check out that podcast as well. That was a lot of fun. Go give all those episodes a like, a listen. Be sure to comment. Leave us a 5-star review if you don't mind. Justin, thank you so much for joining me for today's Propane and Propane Accessories. I can't do it. I can't do it properly.
Propane and Propane Accessory needs.
Propane accessory filled episode. And as we say, love you.
Peace.